morning. My name is Danny Beissinger. I work with Molecular Products. We are a manufacturer of an Ortho-Para catalyst that's used exclusively in the liquefaction train when you're making gaseous hydrogen into liquid. So today I want to talk a little bit about the challenges of the conversion of hydrogen into liquid hydrogen, especially focusing on where this catalytic process is going to be optimized. So first we should start with kind of the elephant in the room, which is that liquid hydrogen is hard to work with. I think everybody here probably has at least heard that a few times, or all the time. But let's talk about why. So, the biggest reason, it all stems back to liquid hydrogen being really, really cold. How cold? It's going to be minus 253 degrees Celsius or around 20 degrees Kelvin. After we wrap our heads around, that it's the second coldest gas to liquefy in the world. The energy need for liquefying hydrogen is also really hard. So, taking that gas and moving it down from room temperature or whatever temperature you're starting at down to 20 Kelvin is hard. But then also driving a process to put it through, heat exchangers and then turbo expanders at the end. It takes a lot of energy, and when you're trying to save that energy to use it later, that's detrimental to finding some good use cases. After you've liquefied it and you got this nice 700 times more energy dense product than you had before, well, then you have to store it, right? And if you don't know that, you see the trailer over on the right there, that's a trailer full of liquefied hydrogen gas, and 98% of the weight of that trailer, now it's full, 98% is trailer. 2% is gas. It's kind of sad when you think about it. But that 2% is still worth it. So we got 2% of that trailer, it's good material, we're ready to go, right? Maybe not necessarily. So you have this trailer, it's full of gas, it's full of liquid. If you didn't optimize the quantum spin states of the gas on its way to liquefaction, you're risking losing 18% of the product per day to boil off. Boil off is where the liquid turns into gas. The gas can't live in that trailer anymore, otherwise it'll blow up, and it vents off into the atmosphere, and everybody, especially the guys who gave you the FID, are really sad. So I want to talk more about that spin state discussion, and to do that we move into quantum physics, which is really fun for some of us. So what is the nuclear spin state of hydrogen? Hydrogen's going to exist in two isomeric forms. It'll exist in the para hydrogen state on the right there, and then the ortho state on the left. And this is not that complicated. Just think about really the way we have it up on the board here. You got things pointing up, which is a little bit more energy, and then you got things pointing opposite, which is a little bit less. It's important to remember that the percentage ratio of what you got, hydrogen, how much is going to be ortho, how much is going to be para, they can exist at the same time next to each other. And that equilibrium ratio is exclusively dependent on the temperature of the gas or liquid. This is unique to hydrogen, so anybody with experience in LNG or other cryogenic liquids, you're not going to find it there. So this is kind of the crux of why you lose some hydrogen if you do it wrong and boil off. And to further understand the equilibriums, we'll talk about graphs, which are fun for me. So on the left here, you can see a temperature versus the ratio of ortho to para, right? So at room temperature or more, really you'll have a lot more ortho spin states than you will have para. So you have about 75% ortho and about 25% para. That's just the natural equilibrium state of the gas. When you start cooling things down, you get to 80 Kelvin, which is right around the liquid nitrogen temperatures. You're going to see a 1-to-1 ratio. Then when you keep on cooling things down and you're approaching that 20 Kelvin where things liquefy, that's where we get to almost entirely para state. I can tell you more about why that happens maybe in another presentation, but keep that in mind. Cold hydrogen likes to be all para. Warm hydrogen, about 3-to-1 ortho to para. Now, not talking about equilibrium, we'll talk more about this in a few more slides, but if you don't catalyze that reaction and the ortho hydrogen progresses towards para, it's going to be very slow, and there will be an exothermic nature to that conversion. But before we talk more about that, we'll talk about my friend Steve. So let's talk about like equilibrium, what that means. We all have been in warm climates, and we all are in cold climates. So think about this guy Steve. When he's inside, maybe he's enjoying the nice warm temperature. It's balmy. He's having a mojito. He's relaxing, right? That's his equilibrium state. If he goes outside in the winter, he's going to be cold, so he'll put on a parka. He'll put on some snow pants or something, and his equilibrium state is going to be winter clothes. Now you could get to that equilibrium state a couple of ways, right? You could either put your coat on inside, and then you go on outside, and then you're warm and equilibrated, or you could go outside and then put your coat on, and then it's still fine, right? So equilibrium has nothing to do with how you get there, but it's you're always going to get to that state that you prefer. And for people, we don't really mind how we get there, but for hydrogen gas, it does matter. So now we leave Steve and we get back to molecules. And oh no, we're back to charts. But this is pretty simple, right? Especially if we keep Steve in our mind. On the left, we're moving from ortho, right? The arrows are pointed in the same direction. So ortho when the gas is warm, and then as you progress towards liquefaction, the liquid temperature, you're still ortho. And then over the next month or so, you move on towards para, because we're going towards the equilibrium state. So that works. That's fine. But there is something interesting about that. So the heat released on an uncatalyzed transformation of ortho hydrogen to para hydrogen over about a month can result in the loss of literally up to 18% per day of its volume during the first day. If you take that out 10 days, you got like a half-life of 10 days for your gas, meaning you're going to lose 50% of your product when you put it on that trailer and you drove it to wherever it needs to go. You'll have half left when you get there. Such a big deal. Now, the reason why that's happening is because that exothermic conversion, it's taking energy out of the gas, out of the liquid, and it's going right back into that trailer, right? So all of the heat is going into the liquid, raising the temperature of the liquid, and driving a lot of it off to convert into another phase. So if it helps to think about that, that's what's causing the boil off. It's the exothermic release, warming everything back up. Now we talked about the ideal case, which is going to be when you use a catalyst. So you use an ortho-to-para catalyst, which is going to take that molecule and kind of quickly drive towards the para state. And that is going to be significantly different. So that'll give you a 99% para ratio of hydrogen at the point of liquefaction. And what we see is that you minimize the loss to under 1%. So, I mean, you're still going to arrive at the site of use with about 91% of your gas left. So it's not 100%, but it's way more than 50. And generally, without a catalyst in your process, you will not be commercially viable. You won't have anybody who's going to go do a liquid process. And we're seeing just about every liquefaction project in the world will use a catalyst. So now that we know that it is important, we'll go to this really hard to see picture, but it's important to kind of give a picture in your mind of where it could be used. And you can design your systems however you want. There are different ways to do it. Some people will put the catalyst in an external vessel somewhere else in the cold box. Some people, we see most people, will actually put the catalyst within the fins of the heat exchangers. They're really small fins, so it's kind of hard to load, but the best place really is right in those fins. And you'll have multiple points, multiple heat exchangers, multiple pumps, right? But you get it in different stages. Maybe you'll do a lot of conversion at 80 Kelvin, and then 60 progressively down towards that 20. But this is the optimal place to do it. So in summary, liquid hydrogen is highly efficient for storage, 700 times more dense than gas, and you don't need to thermally crack it like you would for ammonia to get it ready for use again. But there are challenges. Ortho to para hydrogen conversion is a unique thing for cryogenic liquid hydrogen. Uncatalyzed liquid hydrogen stored in a well-insulated dewar can still lose 18% per day of its volume to boil off. And an Ortho-Para catalyst used in the liquefaction process at the right places can lower that boil off to less than 1%. So that's it from me, pretty simple, or at least I think so. If you'd like to talk to me more, happy to take questions now or at our booth at D43. And thanks very much for listening. Yeah. Wait.
I have a really stupid question. So why not move the hydrogen in balloons, like in the 1910s, 1 century ago? It will cost very few because you just move it in the air, and you can move it as air.
I think so. First off, that's definitely outside of my expertise. But I would imagine that you might have a lot of people worried about how much hydrogen you're putting in balloons. You know, the moment you vent fugitive gases into the atmosphere, they can combine with CO2 and other gases up there to create methane, and it's a huge risk for greenhouse gas emissions. So, I mean, it sounds like it could be a good idea. I can't speak much more to that, though. Sorry. One was over there.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I didn't really understand how do you create para spins and
Sure.
then you go down the temperature. How do you do it?
Okay. Well, it would be nice to. All right, we don't have a visual aid anymore, but that's okay. So effectively, you pass the gas at the right temperature over the catalyst. It's specifically related to contact time. The mechanism is somewhat not understood by literature yet. There's a couple of ideas. It could be related to the paramagnetic, hyperpolarization of the gas as it passes the catalyst. The catalyst itself is it's an anhydrous type of iron oxide. So it has some quantum mechanical properties that will convert the spin, but effectively you pass the gas over the catalyst at the right temperature, and you will drive the conversion of the spin to whatever that temperature's equilibrium state is. If that makes sense.
Do you have some energy loss in that passage?
So yes, yeah, you can't. This is that's a good point. Converting ortho-to-para hydrogen will generate heat. Like I said, it won't generate heat, but it releases heat, right? You're going to have that heat regardless. So the question is, where do you want the heat? Do you want it in your well-insulated dewar, which should be 100% cold and as minimum, you want any heat going into that dewar, right? So the best way to optimize the heat transfer is in the heat exchangers. And what we're seeing with some really good designs is that you can take that waste heat and actually reuse it for different parts of your process. So yeah, there's definitely heat that comes off during the conversion. It's just we're trying to get it to a place where it doesn't hurt the process. That's a good question. Okay.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I had a question regarding the total percentage of para hydrogen that you can get at the end after using the catalyst. Is it possible to reach 100%?
From what we've seen, and so it's a two-part question. Our catalyst or any ortho-to-para catalyst will drive towards the equilibrium state. At 20 Kelvin, you're going to have an equilibrium state of right around 100% para hydrogen. Does your cold box give you an efficient design that will get you to 100%? Probably not 100%, but the claim specifications for a lot of the cold boxes from the gas producers, that are publicly available, they're getting to 99.9% conversion, and that would be through our catalyst, and yeah, so very close to 100. All right. But yeah, let me know if you have questions. D43. I'm happy to talk science as much as you want.